In a world where it's hard to find real, authentic stories, we're here to share the true heart of the trucking industry and the soul of country music. We dive into life on the road and capture the essence of small town America. From the brotherhood of truckers to behind the scenes at NASCAR.
We're the last of the cowboys to giddy up gone boys. 18 wheels on the concrete, it's a slow and down breed, rolling like Jesse James.
We're going to make storytelling, industry insight, and musical highlights. This is the Road Show with Tony Justice and Friends, brought to you by our friends at Fitzgerald Truck Parts. Y'all come on, let's take a ride. When you're out here on the big road, putting in the miles, you sure don't have time to be waiting on parts, much less overpay for them. Fitzgerald's Truck Parts is your go-to for quality parts and fast service when you don't have time to wait. Knowledgeable people, fair prices, and no BS. So truck it up on over to FitzgeraldTruckParts.com and use code Tony at checkout for 10% off your order. This is just for my listeners. Fitzgerald Truck Parts. They're here to keep you moving forward. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to season 2 of the Road Show with Tony Justice and Friends. We're happy to have you guys back. We had an awesome first season, and we're excited to kick off season 2 with just a really good friend of mine by the name of Charles Gracey. We'll be sitting down with him. Man, Charles, you've seen this industry from every angle, from driver to recruiter to now, entrepreneur. You're also the host of Cents Per Mile on SiriusXM channel 146. You just kind of got that thing kicked off a few weeks ago. You're fixing to kick off a weekend spot also on SiriusXM, which I know you're really excited about that. We just want to talk about, where you come from and the road that got you to where you are and all that good stuff. So welcome to the show, brother. It's good to have you on here. Good to sit down with you.
Happy to be here, man. I'm happy to be on a show that I'm not hosting.
Hey, if I don't know how to feel about it because usually you have me on your show, so I'm in your, your seat. So, but today you're in mine and I'm in yours, so we're swapping. But it'll all be all right because we wing everything pretty much anyway, man. But dude, you got a lot going for you, Charles, and a lot of people don't know your story. And so I'd like to kind of talk about the road that got you to where you are, from the driver's seat to doing all the things, that you're doing now. Your background, I know you grew up in trucking. Your dad was in logistics. So, how did your trucking family help shape you into what you're doing today, you think?
Oh, man, that's a great question. And honestly, yeah, I grew up in trucking from the time I was a little kid. I don't know if I was so much of a pain in the ass that my mom wanted me to go to work with my dad on the weekends, or it was more my dad or my mom. I'm not sure who I have to thank for it, but every weekend I went and worked the weekends with my dad at the terminal. He worked for a company called Metropolitan Trucking. They're now known as Med Express. I went to work with them and I didn't appreciate it when I was a kid. I actually thought it was a nuisance. I wanted to be hanging out with my friends, but I sat in that dispatch office. I worked in the shop with a guy named Dean Melvin. I was kind of taken under the wing by all the drivers there. They saw something in me. I don't know what, but they saw something in me that was promising. So when my mom would be complaining about me being a pain in the ass, all of them came to my aid and said, no, he's a good kid. You just have to give him some time. I learned to change oil in trucks, change tires in trucks. One of my first jobs was as a shop aide. And then when I was done with my job, I'd go sit in the dispatch office and I just saw the relationship. My dad was the terminal manager. He's a former driver turned terminal manager. And then when he got cancer, he beat it and then went back in the truck driving. But I just saw the interactions between my dad and the dispatchers and these drivers. And these are those old school drivers. Like there was a guy whose name was Miles. He had the same pair of cowboy boots every time I saw him, but every time you saw him, there was a new roll of duct tape holding those boots together. And then there was Manny. And I mean, my dad was so close with his drivers that I'd go spend weekends at these guys' houses, go fishing, they, hang out with them. And I just really got grained into the operations at that carrier where my dad was working. I said I would never work in trucking because I saw my dad, heart issues, health issues, all the things that we talk about more so nowadays than we did back then. And then went up into the military, try to get my head right, get the discipline that I have nowadays. And when I got out, I said I wasn't going to be in trucking. Well, then guess what? I got my CDL And if that wasn't enough, turned around and started driving for Chicago-based carriers. And I did everything my dad told me not to do. I think that's the highlight of this. Like every kid out there, like, oh, my dad said you have to do this, this, and this. And I didn't listen, like typical kids. I was my own adult. I was going to blaze my own path. And he just like, hey, quit going to a new job just because they're going to give you a little bit more money. And it wasn't like I was hopping every couple months. I mean, I'd stay a year, year and a half, and then like, oh, hey, I knew I didn't want to be OTR anymore. I knew I didn't want to, you know, be stuck on the road a month at a time. I had a kid, I had a wife. So I took a local job. I was hauling fuel. And then after that, I was working for Eastern European company out of Chicago, hold your jokes. But that's where I got my first big break, man, honestly. Like I actually talked to the guy this morning that gave me my break, a guy named Darius. He always joked about how clean my truck was. He always joked about why I would spend part of my weekend scrubbing my floors once a month. And mind you, I was in a day cab, by the way. I was local at that time. And I was also training all the drivers they were bringing in and, got to talk to the people in the office, got to know them, got to know them personally. So when they started up their driver training program, it was natural for them to come to me. There was already a relationship and they said, hey, design a driver training program. We want to start bringing in student drivers to this company. And so that's how I started. That's how I first got out of the truck. And I actually, like I said, I talked to the guy this morning and I told him, I'm like, man, I don't forget what you did for me. Like I'd probably still be hitting the clutch and shifting gears if it wasn't for that. But that was my first step out of a truck. And it was at this company out of Chicago. And, it wasn't an easy job, like many good things in life. It just wasn't easy. I was the, only American guy in the office. You hear all these things that people say all the time. Oh, them talking in another language bothers me. I get all of that. I felt the same way in the beginning, but I put my pride and my beliefs to the side and I looked at it as an opportunity. And it was one hell of an opportunity because I learned a lot. I learned the safety side, I learned the recruiting side, and it led me to the path I'm on today. I've worked every position in trucking except brokerage.
So is that really kind of what led you, give you the idea to start? The was the hot seat, where you're getting a driver?
Oh no, that was a little bit further down the line. So opportunity had presented itself. All these carriers have these sign-on bonuses and stuff like that, referral bonuses. And I was working at that carrier that had given me the chance. And I was running their training department, but I saw this referral bonus. So I went out and started my own Craigslist ad. I'm like, I'm going to beat the system. Watch this. I'm going to run the Craigslist ad. It'll be my number. They're going to apply and then I'm going to give them off as a referral and I'm going to get my payday. Yeah, I got my hand slapped and I got in trouble. But that was my first taste of recruiting. And I really enjoyed it because I was able to talk to the drivers. These are people that were doing the job that I've done for years. And I was able to help them try to find a path much like I found. So I wound up leaving that company, going to another company in Chicago as a recruiter. And it was a company that I had once applied to be a driver for. And I didn't actually start driving for them. I went to orientation and I said, hell with this. This place sucks because I went into an orientation office that locked from the outside. And it was the size of a mop closet. So once they shut the door, you were stuck. It had no windows, nothing. Like there was no escape. And then they said, oh, we're going to give you a new truck. Yeah, I get the truck and the mirrors being held together by electrical tape and stuff like that. I'm like, that's not new. They're like, it's new to you. And I'm like, did you just actually say that? There's memes out there for this shit.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, no, 2 strikes, you're out. I'm gone. Well, later on, that's where I went for my first recruiter job. And quickly, I became the recruiting manager. And one of the first things I did was take that orientation office as my office. So it can never be used for orientation again, because that's not how we treat drivers. And that's where I really found my passion for recruiting, helping other people. I kind of had a hybrid role. I was not only running recruiting, I was running their marketing. I was kind of the driver liaison to any issues with operations and drivers and operations. So I called myself damage control. That's what the job felt like. And that's where I got my first real big marketing break. One day I was really tired and they walked into the office like, Charles, we need a new slogan. And it was like 8:00 at night when they're coming to me. I'm still at the office, by the way, at 8:00 at night, if that tells you anything. And I was like, go truck yourself. And sure enough, within a week, I come in and there's go truck yourself at the back of a trailer. And you can Google it today, hashtag go truck yourself. And it was a successful market employ. Drivers loved it. Everyone bought into it. And the whole thing about it was, hey, get in the truck and be excited about it. Have fun with it. It doesn't have to be so taboo. It doesn't have to be so serious. It should represent the culture of the company. And so I grew my brand there. I grew their brand at the same time. And then eventually I moved on, and that's where Hot Seat formed. I knew I wanted to do this at a larger scale, and I didn't want to just play in one sandbox. I wanted to play in multiple sandboxes. That's how you help people. And so I started Hot Seat Services, and I was still working a full-time job as an executive. Hot Seat was just a side hustle. And then eventually it grew to a point, and it was starting to affect my job, my main job, because it was just growing. And my boss at the time looked over to me and like, Charles, I think you need to choose your thing. And so I chose my thing and built a very successful recruiting company, sold it to Cub Ventures on the day of its 2-year anniversary. And now that's going on 3 years ago from the time I sold it. And now I've successfully integrated the company into their company. And now I'm the managing director of CDLLIFE.
It's been a pretty wild ride from, the driver's seat to where you are today. And I know one of the things you talk a lot about is education and not just, in the trucking side of it, but, educating yourself about the industry. And I'm sure that played a big role because, we have drivers up there listening who have ambitions to, not be behind the wheel their whole career, but they can't feel like they're trapped inside that truck. I felt that
And you're
way
not.
for many years. You remember that feeling as well.
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm making good money. I'm supporting my family, but I got these goals and, how in the world I spend all my time driving, and, maybe when we come back here, maybe we're going to go to break. We can kind of talk about that. Some things people can do to still, work that job, support your family, but be working on them goals. It's not easy, but it's possible.
No, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, so we'll hit on that. We're going to take a short break. We'll let our sponsors get a word in here. And you guys make sure to leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Just hit the like button, hit the share button. We appreciate you. And we'll be back to the road show with Tony Justice and Friends in just a couple minutes. To all my brothers and sisters of the highway, if you're tired of wrestling with those tangled airlines and your power cord that run from your semi-truck and connect to your trailer, then Easy Claw's got you covered. Not only does the Easy Claw system keep your lines and hoses organized, but it also keeps them from dragging and chafing, thus preventing breakdowns, expensive repairs, DOT fines, or even worse, being shut down by our good buddies down there at the chicken coop. So let's be less stressed, safer, and compliant, y'all, by checking out my friends at EasyClaw.com. For over 20 years, my buddy Clifton with Crossroads Towing and Truck Repair has proudly served the trucking industry with reliable, family-owned service. Available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to get you moving again, safe and sound. Just call 270-773-4000 and tell them Tony sent you. Hey, everybody. Diesel Pride believes the best way to respect all of us American truckers is to showcase everyday road trucks on their shirts. I love mine. Visit dieselpride.rocks for the best trucker apparel. Tell them I sent you. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Road Show. We're hanging out with my good buddy Charles Gracey today from, Charles, what are you from? I mean, heck, you got
I am the managing director of CDLLIFE. I am the host of Cents Per Mile and the host on SiriusXM for Trucking Sense.
We were talking when we were off the air about kind of mine and your journey both have a lot of similarities in that we both started behind the wheel. We're out there and we're doing our job, we're supporting our families. But our wheels are turning. We have these goals, these ideals. Yours was more recruiting, the business side of trucking. Mine was, writing songs about what I do, keeping that, legacy of trucking songs alive in the trucking industry, because I that was really something that's important to me and stuff I grew up on. And you had your goals. And we were talking in the last segment there about, drivers who may not want to, stay behind the wheel, for 15, 20 years. They might want to get out there, get the feel of it, experience it for 5, 6, 7 years, 10 maybe. But then they all of a sudden they feel trapped in that because it's a good living. Most cases, if you have any kind of work ethic, you can do pretty decent and support your family pretty well trucking. So next thing you know, you kind of feel trapped inside that cab and you have all these goals, but you're just really not sure how to obtain them because you're spending all your time driving that truck. What are what is some advice that you would give someone who has other goals in mind, especially and from your side, who's more, industry focused, but they want to get into recruiting or safety or I don't know whatever it may
Well, the
be.
advice is pretty much from my experience. The advice is pretty much the same across the board. If you're punching a clock and that's all you care about is punching your clock and collecting your check, you're only going to go as far as that. I go back to my early driving days. I told you I drove at a carrier, and I had a good buddy. Not so good buddies anymore because paths have taken us different ways, but I had a good buddy where when we were driving, we would always shoot the shit together. We had different ways of doing things. He punched out and left. No one knew his name other than his time card. I would punch out and then talk to the dispatch. I would punch out and talk to the doc. I wanted to know how things worked. I wanted to not necessarily to cause change, but the better I figured that I understood why things were done a certain way, the better I could buy into the why. Because if you just simply tell me to do it, I'm not that type of person. If you just say do it because this is the way it is, that's probably not going to work well for me. I need to know why are we doing it this way so I can better buy into it and understand. And maybe offer a solution that's better than the one that's right there at that time. So I got to know the people, and I'm a very relationship driven person. Always have been. With that being said, that relationship was formed in those notions, going through those motions, relationships were formed. So first and foremost, don't be scared to make relationships. Also, don't be scared to ask questions. Learn. Reach outside of your comfort zone. Get comfortable being uncomfortable because that is the nature of the beast. And I think through constant learning, through constant evolution as a person, and through constant growth opportunities, look for the opportunities to bet on you. That's the best advice I can give anyone outside of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Is the difference between an entrepreneur and someone that's working for someone is the entrepreneur at some point has to take away the security blanket of someone else paying their paycheck and bet on themselves. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially with people like you. Some of the listeners might be saying, well, I got a family. So did I. I took I remember the day when I came home and I told my wife, hey, I'm taking our last $1,000 in savings and I need to put it into a business bank account because the minimum at our bank was $1,000. And she's like, what? And I'm like, by the way, I'm trading in my $130K a year job to run a company out of my garage. Let me paint you a picture. I wasn't living in a nice house. I was living in a mobile home. I had an unfinished garage where I was working out of it with exposed insulation for over a year. And over time, as money came in, I would invest into myself and my business and my dream of trying to help more people find more long-term employment versus job hopping. Giving drivers the nitty gritty on the jobs versus just what's on a recruiting poster. And that was me betting on me. And I'm here to tell the tale now. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're extremely successful. I'm only as successful as the opportunities I seized for myself and the opportunities people gave me that I decided to make the most of.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with that too. I think, it's a gamble, man. If you don't take risks in life, I hope you're comfortable with where you're at, because I mean, that's where you're going to be.
Because it's not going to
Yeah.
change.
If you're not going to, take those chances and risks, then
But they're calculated ones. You have to.
it is. It's not like just, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and quit and not have a plan or any momentum.
Probably not going to end well.
And me and Misty, we traveled around that Peterbilt doing shows. We'd deliver somewhere, within a 150-mile radius of a truck show on Thursday, and we'd head over to the truck show, get the truck cores, dry it out, get it all dried down so it don't spot up, head over to the truck show, unload everything out of that sleeper. I mean, we couldn't even lay down and rest until we got to the truck show because the truck was packed full of my guitar, merchandise. And then we would set up and do a truck show for 2 days, load everything back up, man, then go reload, come back, live our life for another week or two till it's time for another truck show. And she'd go back to waiting tables. I'm back to trucking 2,800, 3,500 mile a week, whatever it is. And then do it again, but we did that for several, 10 years. And we got to that point where I had to make the decision of, okay, this music thing's doing pretty good with the part-time effort. What would it look like with the full-time effort? So you had to make that decision of leaving that comfort zone of, I got insurance, I got my bills, I'm paying my bills. I'm not really getting ahead
Wait,
in life, but
you
I'm
didn't figure out how to pay those on hopes and dreams?
yeah, well, no, yeah, exactly. So, but in 2020, right at the end of 2020, we took that leap, and knock on wood, we hadn't looked back, and it's awesome, to say, hey, we're waving our own flag, but it does, it has its challenges,
Oh, absolutely.
and it's
And,
scary.
and that's where
Scary.
that's where I think the day of social media has failed us, because everyone posts their successes on social media. So if you scroll in social media, you're constantly seeing, oh, look, this person's on vacation. This person just bought a new house. This person got a new car. This person got a new job. But what you're not seeing on social media is this person didn't hit that goal. This person stepped on a landmine. This person made a mistake. And that's where I think people need to get less social media consumption and more real life consumption. Talk to your friends, talk to your network. There's people like myself and yourself that is more than happy to share the trials and tribulations that come with any journey that we've taken. I'm an open book on that stuff. Have I made mistakes? Absolutely. Are there lessons I learned the hard way? Absolutely. And they were also lessons learned very well. You want to learn a lesson well? Let it hit you in the wallet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're going through some lessons now, that, with more success comes more responsibility, and the more things
Spider-Man.
man, are you kidding? It's like, I wanted to be a songwriter, and I want to record songs and go play music and write.
Yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. With great success comes great responsibility. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. There are sayings through the time that all point back to the same thing, and I think that's the thing people fail to highlight, and probably within reason. No one wants to doom scroll and see us complaining about, first world problems. But I do think that those problems paint a bigger picture. And you and I have gotten to know each other very well. I'm going to kind of turn the table on you here for a moment. We've gotten to know each other very well. I see the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into what you do. I see the hard work and passion that goes into what you do. By no means do I look at what you do and say, oh, Tony's living the life. Tony's living his life and Tony's enjoying his life. But by no means is Tony's life easy. And you've seen me. Like, you and I have had talks at 11:30 at night when most people would be winding down to go to bed, and we're talking shop. That's the difference between passion and investing in yourself, in my opinion. Like, if there's a job to be done, I'm going to do that job until it's done. I'm not going to put it off. I'm not going to hand it off to someone else. I'm going to do it until it's done, and done the way I need it done in order for it to be successful. And that's passion. I can teach you trucking. I can teach you recruiting. I can't teach you to care about what you do. You have to care. And going back to the earlier point where we were talking about advice, take pride in what you do. Whether you're driving the truck, pushing a broom, mopping a floor, whatever you're doing in life, take pride in it, because there's so many people out there that don't give a damn about what they're doing, that if you do nothing more out of this entire show we've talked about, and you just actually simply give a damn, you will set yourself apart from everyone else out there.
Yeah, we see people, I don't know. I mean, I've had some employees, here that's helped out in the past, and you find those employees that come in and they take, like you said, whether it doesn't matter, sweeping the floor, loading, unloading merchandise trailer, cleaning the merchandise trailer inside and out, taking ownership in that, so the people you work for don't feel like, well, they're only here to get a paycheck, and you have to. You know what I'm saying? But you can tell this person's taking ownership. They're investing in my company with their work ethic to make it a better, to make it operate more efficiently, to make it a better workplace, whatever it may be. And those, you just automatically, as a business owner, you will start lifting those people up into higher places, because man, they get it. They're not.
Here, let's flip the table again. All right. You've had to cut checks for people. I've had to cut checks for people. Do the people that show up, punch a clock, and leave with no care in the world deserve the same amount of buy-in from an employer or an investor as somebody that's investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into something? The answer is no. The difference that separates a lot of people is, are you willing to go that extra mile? And we live in a day and age, as controversial as what I'm about to say is going to sound. We live in a day and age where it's all about me mentality is running rampant through the world. It's all about me. And, oh, you want me to do this? This is what it's going to cost you. I didn't build my business off that mentality. I built my business off of, hey, let me show you, and then let's talk about what it's worth. And that seems backwards in business, but it's a lot easier for someone to assign a value to something I'm bringing if they see the value versus me telling you about the value. There's so many people out there saying I bring value. I'd rather show you the value I bring. And I'll tell you, the investment group that purchased my company, there's not a single conversation that I have with these folks that at some point it doesn't come out. Charles, you're tenacious. Charles, you're relentless. I don't stop until I get the desired outcome. And sometimes that could be at my own detriment, but I get the job done. How many people have you worked with where you can say, I know when I give it to them that the job is going to get done?
Yep, not a lot, but those people, when you do find them, you cherish them and
They stand out.
You hang on to them, man, as long as you can. And if you lose one of them, you're like, holy cow, what, I don't let that
Oh,
happen.
yeah, it hurts. It's crippling.
Oh, yes. Like, how am I going to find someone to replace that? So, yeah, going that extra mile, being that person that puts that extra incentive in, on the job site. And for you guys and gals up there who may have goals outside of that cab, I think that's some sound advice, Charles, that you're giving them, and advice that I know, even in my world, in my path and journey that has worked for me, just as well. So just the hard work, be tenacious, don't take no for
Put
an
yourself
answer.
out there. Don't be scared to fail. So many people, it's paralysis by fear. Like, I'm scared of failing, so I'm just not going to try. And it's like, oh, well, that's going to work out well. No, it's not going to work out at all. Like, you have to try.
You can do it. And so we're sitting here, looking at two guys that's had success today. We've been very blessed, and you'll find, the more that you go that extra mile, like you're talking about, that's when you start meeting more people, and you meet these people and they introduce you to someone, and then your network just starts growing and growing. Cause I used to, people are, well, you got a network. Well, how am I going to get out of this truck? Get up there and network. And it happened a little bit over time, a little bit here, met this person, build that relationship. It just takes time. But at the end of the day, that networking is where it's at. And it seems like it's impossible, but it's not. It's just a process.
I had a guy today. He's a friend of mine, and he reached out like, hey man, I'm looking for a new job. He's in a job. He's in a very good job. I'm looking for a new job. That's a network at play. That's a relationship. There's a level of trust. Your word is all you got. I value mine quite a bit. It actually, one of my pet peeves is when integrity gets called in question, because that is kind of my hill I will fight on. I might not actually, I'll say this in confidence. I am not the best speaker out there. I am not the best thing since sliced bread, but I do cherish claiming I'm probably one of the most authentic, most transparent. I don't hold a secret hand. I tell people up front what my thoughts are. I tell people my feelings. And sometimes that, again, works against me. I've been told before, when a scalpel's needed, I'm a jackhammer. And I'm okay with that. I built a brand off that. That's me. That's me being authentic. I can try to come in there and pretend to be the scalpel. There's plenty of great people that are scalpels. I pride myself in being the jackhammer. I get the job done. And sometimes people can find that abrasive, but I'd rather be truthful and tell you what you need to hear than sit there and be full of fluff like half the people out there and tell you what you want to hear.
Well, we appreciate the honesty here on the show. We're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about all this kind of cool stuff you got going on. We need to talk about, SiriusXM show, the new weekends coming up, all the new stuff in Charles's life. You guys, thanks for tuning in. Stick around. Don't go nowhere. We're going to take a minute for our sponsors. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Too many drivers are being hurt on the job. That's why the OnLift system by my friends over at Patriot Lift is a total game changer. It's 100% operated by air. You just hit a button and you're dropping or hooking your trailer in a matter of seconds. No more straining on that crank handle. No more injuries and no more missed work. Maybe you run a fleet of trucks, and so you're looking at potentially saving thousands of dollars on workman's comp and injury claims. Listen up. Right now, you can get your OnLift system by Patriot Lift for $900 off the regular price by using discount code TJ2025. Take care of your body and your rig and get yourself an OnLift by Patriot Lift. And hey, it's made right here in the good old USA. My good friend Jay and his team at Pride Truck Wash know that truck drivers are the heartbeat of America and its economy. At Pride Truck Wash, their mission is to help those hardworking people do their job in a clean truck. Stop in at a Pride Truck Wash and experience the difference. To learn more, visit pridetruckwash.com. You guys know that I've trusted House products for years, and so should you. For me, it's Diesel Treat for winter, Diesel Lifeline for emergencies, their Diesel Defender for warm weather, and House Multi-Purpose for just about everything else. Visit House products today. As truckers, we drive more miles than anyone else on the highway. As a result, we're at a higher risk of being involved in an accident. If you've been hurt in a wreck, let my good friends at Terry Law Firm help. They know trucks and how to handle truck wreck cases. Reach out to the Terry Law Firm on the web at terry-lawfirm.com. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Road Show with Tony Justice and Friends. I'm hanging out here with my good friend Charles Gracey. And Charles, we've talked a lot about your journey and the road that's got you to where you are, starting out from behind the wheel to, recruiting and your own podcast, now your own shows on SiriusXM. It's been quite the journey, and it's very, I have a lot of respect for what you've done, what you've accomplished over the years. And, now you're having me on shows on SiriusXM. I never dreamed I'd be
I love that. Jake Breaks and Boots every Thursday.
Jake Breaks and Boots. It's a lot of fun. I'm loving it. It's cool. I was pretty nervous about it, but you made it easy, jumping in there, and we just shoot the breeze and have fun. And we get a lot of callers come in and things like that. So I appreciate the opportunity as well. The experience has been really cool. But so you got all this going on, man. We're talking FreightWaves TV. You got cents per mile. You're talking about FreightWaves TV. We were off the air here, and I'm like, well, where do you watch FreightWaves TV? What's that about? How's that work? I never heard of that. So fill us in, man. Cents per mile, FreightWaves TV.
Yeah.
How's that all work?
So Cents Per Mile started as a podcast to promote the business, and it grew and got its own movement behind it. And then it got brought on to FreightWaves TV. You can find that, just go to freightwaves.com. They have a lot of broker facing news, publications, stuff like that. Cents Per Mile is geared towards the back office. So if there's a driver out there that's like, hey, I want to see how the sausage is made, I want to understand things that I might not be exposed to, Cents Per Mile is a great foundation show for that type of stuff. We talk recruiting, we talk marketing, we talk tech, we talk market trends, and FreightWaves is a great channel where that stuff is housed. Starting next year, FreightWaves will actually be on cable TV as well. So you can find all of those shows. Just Google Cents Per Mile or FreightWaves, and you can find their whole lineup of shows on YouTube and any major listening platform. Trucking Sense is driver facing. That's my weekday show for 3 hours a day from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern on SiriusXM channel 146. And that's where I try to bring everything to the driver's forefront. I want to drop it right on a doormat for them to grab. I want to hand the mic over to as many drivers out there as possible for them to sound off on issues, much like the content we bring. We talked a little bit about Jake Breaks and Boots. That's our Thursday segment. On Friday, we have Legally Loaded with Matt Leffler. On Wednesdays, we have The Next Shift and Drive to Thrive, where we have Next Generation Trucking Association and Michael Lombard come on and talk driver fitness and attracting new drivers in the industry. Tuesdays, we have Mother Trucker Tuesdays with Alex Mai, Mother Trucker News. And Mondays, we have OIDA on there. And it's all about having segments and topics that can resonate with the drivers and have them sound off. None of this matters. None of anything I do matters without the drivers. So it's all about giving the platform back to them so they can sound off and have their voices, their concerns, and their perspectives seen and heard.
Yeah, I mean, it is good. That's one of the things I've noticed about since you've took over this show or got this show on SiriusXM, Monday through Friday, is it's really, really driver focused. Some shows, that I've in the past I've noticed was really sponsor focused.
ATA focused.
ATA, man, and I'm like, come on, give us a break, and
they already got enough lobbyists. I don't think they need any radio jockey in their pocket.
No, exactly. Thank you. But it was, and you can just tell it, you're really focusing on the issues that these men and women face out here every day, that's, trying to keep this country rolling and support their families, and the fight. It's like people are just fighting them, everything they try to do, from regulations to shippers, receivers, brokers, and there's just a lot of topics, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of issues that need to be figured out, get figured out and worked out. But I just want to say thank you, from a driver's standpoint for doing that and making trucking sense on SiriusXM really relatable.
Well, I appreciate that, but honestly, man, it's people out there like yourself and your listenership and our listenership that make it all worthwhile. They have stories. They've done the job, just like yourself and myself. They deserve to be heard. They deserve to be able to be seen and heard with their perspectives on a platform. And more than anything, they deserve to be entertained. That was the big thing. Is not only is the bringing the education and exposure there important, but it's also equally as important that people are tuning in and enjoying themselves listening to it and not going into a coma while they're driving down the road, listening to someone talk about some dusty old books or something for 3 hours.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, really hosting a show on Sirius, something like what you guys got going on, it's really tough because you can only play, so many seconds of music, So, I mean, 98% or more of your show is dialogue and talking.
Well, and it's natural when you give the people the content that they want to consume. If you're trying to force feed them some narrative from some association, or you're trying to make it, all you're doing is trying to force feed them your product, it's not going to be received very well. The drivers are natural BS detectors.
Absolutely. A truck driver will sniff you out in a matter of about 2.3 seconds. If you're talking about things that has nothing to do with the industry or your goals, the things that you're pushing, or
It goes to funnel their ears like cattle. Like, it's not going to work very well.
Wait a minute, I'm a truck driver. You want me to tune into your show, but you're praising all these people over here who's shoving BS down my throat. Why would I listen to your show?
I mean, I'd love to have the ATA on my show. I'm just not sure they'd want to come in there. It's probably not a safe space for them.
Well, let's have them on Jake Breaks and Junkie, please. That would be an interesting show, I guarantee it. But anyway, I can think of a couple people. I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to even say it. People who might read my mind. There's a couple people in particular from over there I'd love to have on this. Maybe I should have them on my podcast.
Hey, I've had an open invite for Mr. Duffy to join on. He's been talking very regularly about being boots on the ground and grassroots for opinions, and I couldn't think of a better place for him to be than talking to people like yourself, myself, and coming out there and putting himself on SiriusXM to talk to 1.4 million drivers each week.
Exactly. I think it'd be great.
Like, you want to hear their opinion? That is the platform to do it.
Well, at some point, you got to have those relationships between those. If it's, I don't know, maybe it's a waste of time, but maybe if there could be a conversational front begin, and if people can agree to disagree and start talking about the topics and the issues, and start using some common sense and fixing things. But a lot of those things are so motivated by money and people who are just against the industry. I don't know if it ever work or not. If we'd ever gain any ground of just spinning our wheels.
Got to keep making that noise, though. That's the one thing I will tell all the drivers. The one thing, if nothing else makes it through, you got to be heard. This industry is plagued by these voids and echo chambers. Don't contribute to those echo chambers. Don't contribute to those voids. Be heard. Go to platforms like SiriusXM, call in and sound off. There's a lot of important people that listen to that stuff too, because they want to know what you think. Go to tune in the comment sections of shows like this and be heard. Go to social media, voting for fightingfortruckers.com, participate in the local legislation, talk to your legislators. I said it earlier. I'm not the most well-spoken person out there. I'm not the cleanest cut person out there. I try to hold my own in those arenas, but I am one of the most authentic ones out there. And I think drivers, nothing gets more authentic about your cause and your needs than you voicing out. So be heard.
Yeah, a lot of times you think, well, it doesn't feel good to call in and say what I think. It doesn't go anywhere. But you never know where those things might go. You can never be quiet about it and stop talking about it.
Yeah, I was told a couple years ago, because I expressed interest to a certain somebody, my interest in trying to be on SiriusXM, and I was told, you don't have what it takes, Junior. And now look, I get 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Drivers, you're no different. Be heard. And hey, 9 times out of 10, it might fall on deaf ears, but it only takes that one time to be heard. But if you say nothing, you don't even get that one time.
So speaking of being heard, how can people tune in? Of course, you'll SiriusXM. You got to have the radio and whatnot.
Yeah. SiriusXM, you can tune in Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'm on and would love to hear from you. Call in, sound off. Every Wednesday at 11:30 Eastern time on FreightWaves TV and all major listening platforms, you can find Cents Per Mile. And then I'm easy to find. Dr. Phil of Trucking is my handle on almost all social media platforms. Or just Google Charles Gracey and you'll find all my social medias. Or just look for Tony. I'm usually not far behind him. He's my good friend.
Yeah, that's Sirius Channel 146, right?
Yeah, 146 Road Dog Trucking Radio.
Dog Trucking Radio, man. It's not hard to find. I know I have it on my Sirius, on my little thing in my truck, my Sirius Radio.
You know what I need to do, Tony? I need to get you and your content on our app. And so that's another area that we can do some cool stuff. We got to get you over to the CDLLIFE app.
All right. I think I downloaded their app the other day. I just got to go in there. You told me to go in there and get verified. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, you got to get verified so everyone knows you're a trucker, bona fide.
Bona fide.
The CDL wasn't good enough. We got to give you that check mark.
There you go. Well, listen, everybody, if you guys are not tuning in to SiriusXM channel 146 in the afternoons, do so. Check out Charles' show. He's doing an awesome job. Very relatable, just drivers. A lot of people getting to drive in, and you're a part of the show. You're not just up there listening, and I know he appreciates that. Tune in, check out his podcast. He's doing a lot of great things for the industry. Charles, we appreciate all your hard work for the industry and everything you do. And, I know you personally that I know you're not doing this to be seen and be this guy, man. You're truly, genuinely passionate about the industry. You're passionate about helping other people out, whether they're just starting out looking to get into the industry, or if they're in the industry wanting to expand, do other things. You have so much advice to offer, and you're always willing to do that. Thank you for that. Thank you for being genuine and just a good guy. I love you, man, and I can't wait to work with you a lot more in the future. Thanks for coming on, and we look forward to maybe doing this again sometime.
Yeah, appreciate the invite and appreciate everyone for everything they do. I wouldn't be here without people like yourself and them out there supporting me. So I couldn't be more thankful for all of that.
Absolutely. And like I said, most of all, thanks to the men and women who keep this world rolling each and every day, sitting behind the steering wheels. Thanks for tuning into the Road Show with Tony Justice and friends. Till we see you again, God bless. And as always, speed safely. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into the Road Show with Tony Justice and friends, brought to you by our great friends over at Fitzgerald's Truck Park. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Also, follow us on my social media for more updates and behind-the-scenes content. Until next time, God bless, and as always, speed safely.